Hi, I thought I'll make this video. I don't know how to put it all together. I don't feel like I've got the time to structure it properly. But a quick background. I love prophecy and I've been watching what's happening in the news in Jerusalem and everything else. And a few months ago, I've been in my season of isolation where God is trying to sort of pull me back. I've sort of backslid. Um, Always believed in God, never lost my believe in him, just sort of, rebelled against what it is he wants me to do in these times. I've always had that calling. I love prophecy. I love end time prophecy. I feel like one of my spiritual gifts are I've got eyes to see. I've got understanding of prophecy, and how I understand it, and how I explain it to people in a way that we can understand the Book of Revelation and stuff. So um, with this video clip, I just wanted to mention a few stuff quickly, sort of that's opened my eyes again in these last few months. I've listened, like the books that's left out of the Bible. Listen to the Book of Enoch. There's a lot of them, the Maccabees, but I've not listened to those. I've listened to the Book of the Watchers, the Book of Enoch. Um, there's a Book of Enoch 1 and 2, which is very sort of revealing in terms of what is happening now and sort of explaining the Bible in better terms. The Bible that we've got, the King James Version, is always explained. I still remember growing up, and my kids now also asking me, but like, because we read the book of Genesis and then it says, from Adam and Eve, and they were the first people on earth, and then those questions like, but how did they like multiply, and how did that work, all those like difficult questions that we sort of don't know. And how did they just exist, and how was the earth made, and if God created the earth, then how did he create it out of nothing, and how did and who created God, it's questions like that. So with the Book of Enoch, like the revelation I got from it, though it talks about like the angels, the fallen angels, and the Nephilim on earth, and in Noah's time, that is sort of very well known and out there anyway, so you can go and research that as well. But what I got from, um, I think it's the second Book of Enoch that I listened to the audiobook, and the revelation that I got from that was like the angels took him through the heavens up until the 10th heaven where God's throne is, and like what he saw and how he saw that Jesus was there from the beginning. That is why it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and God was that's in John. That's that verse in the Bible that it explains. So Jesus was there from the beginning, creator from the beginning. He was there from the beginning with that purpose of what he's going to do. The interesting book for me was also the story of Adam and Eve. That book, for me, explains so much just from the beginning, just that story of creation and from the beginning. It explains so much, like you'll understand the whole Bible by just listening to that audiobook. It was for me, it explained those questions we had, because in our Bible, it's just a short version of how it was created. And then you ask the questions in your brain because you're like, I don't understand, but how can it be like that? So a quick history on my story. I studied BSc Sports Science and chemistry and biochemistry, and in chemistry we did energy, and I always loved energy and movement and human movement and the body, and then I did a whole bunch of sports. I've been athletic all my life. I've done a whole bunch of sports, and then later in my later years, like now, like 5 years ago, when I trained, and I've done all sports, and with my background in human movement studies and kinesiology, it's hard to train people and explain to people how energy works. How you use energy in your body and your movement to flow and be functional, and not separated or isolated, because we are a whole being. Our whole body moves as one. So that's when I think it started in my brain when I actually realized that it's not physics, it's energy, it's those quantum physics, the stuff we can't see, magnetic fields, electrical fields, the frequency, vibration, the sounds that we hear. We all so visual, we all train with our eyes and what we see, but not really what we hear, like that frequency, that vibration, what gets in here and gets processed in the brain. That is such a neglected field where science sort of explain it but not explain it. So with energy, and then I did fighting, and we tried with MMA to sort of combine all the sports, and using karate. That's how I sort of figured out how the karate movement is in comparison to boxing. But how can you use the benefits of karate to make your boxing better? And that comes down to energy, how they like build up the energy, and then they transfer that energy and they release it at the end of the movement. So that's how I sort of got into all of this again. And then it clicked in my brain. Energy can't be created and it can't be destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another form. Like potential energy can be transformed to kinetic energy, movement. That's how they use wind and light energy to make electricity and give us light and stuff like that. So that principle of using the magnetic fields, like Tesla stuff, Nikola Tesla stuff, it's all frequency and vibration and energy. So if you use the stuff we can't see, everything is made up of energy. We know that. Like a gas is more open, like the atoms are more spread and it's more open. And then you get a liquid form where it's a little bit more flowy, and then solids where it's so compact. So, but a background of that. So the book of Enoch explained how God created the earth, and God is light energy, and He's so strong. That's why you can never be in the presence of God without fearing, or without like feeling it, because He radiates out so much energy. And God is light, and light is energy. And so in the book of Enoch, it explains how God created the earth. It was only God in the vastness of the universe, and there was nothing. And out of this energy, He created this solid earth planet. And Dolores's energy stuff also, she explains how the beings that talk to her from other planets and out there, they say like how Earth is such a, they don't want to be here. It's so compressed. The energy here, it's so compact, like a solid. Think about a solid. Like the atoms can't move. It's a solid. You compact. It's not a lacquer atmosphere for them to be in. They want to be free and let their light shine. And in any case, so that is how God created the earth, is out of that nothing. People are like, how can He create out of nothing? It's not nothing. Like magnetic fields, we can't see or feel it. Electrical fields, we can't see or feel it. So out of that energy, God made something visible that we see, that we are today. We are flesh. We can see that. Also, the story of Adam and Eve, very interesting book. That explains the whole first few chapters of Genesis, where we never understand that story, but the story of Adam and Eve and what happened to them before they died. We only have that like one or two chapters, and then it's the genealogy. But how it's explained in the Garden of Eden, and how God created us in His image. Now God is energy and He's light, and in that book, when Adam chose, God always gives us free choice. We know what the consequences of good are, and then we experience the consequences of bad. He wants us to choose, and to see that if we choose bad, the consequences are bad. If we choose good, the consequences are good. So with free choice, obviously Adam chose, and then he realized, and it's amazing the story of how they were then kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and and God put them in this vast earth, which is the devil's playground, because his fallen story is known as well. So they were roaming there as well. But the devil was jealous of us, of the human being created in the image of God, and now God is giving the earth to Adam and saying that this is yours now and you can, and the devil didn't want that. So he kept on deceiving Adam and Eve, and they would fall for his deception, and God would say, but it's not me, you know my voice, that wasn't me, that's the devil. And how he taught them, and how many days they fasted and didn't eat. And because in the Garden of Eden, that's what Adam then said. He realized, please, God, let us back in. Please let us back in. And the angels guarding the gate they kept on going back. But the angels that guarded the gate, God gave them command to not let them back in. In this one chapter, I'd say, Adam says that he still remembers being in the garden, eating from the fruit, drinking from the water, never thirsting, never feeling hungry, never feeling tired, nothing like that. And he said the angels feared him, and Eve then later. But he said that they were that level above the angels. And he said when they were kicked out of the Garden of Eden and they kept on trying to go back to the gate, asking God to let them back in, how he felt the fear of those angels. And he said it's sad because they used to be afraid of him and his power because we created in the image of God. And then when they were kicked out and they were in like the world system now and out in the world, but not in the Garden of Eden, how he then feared those angels guarding the gates. And how he's sort of dropped from that high place to this low place now. And it's such an interesting book. It explains so much, or to me it does. Like, I don't know if I just see it that way, but that's how I'm trying to quickly explain it. So that's the first thing. So, and then they fasted and they prayed and they fasted and they prayed so that God would let them back into the Garden of Eden. And then they realized they're getting hungry and they are flat. They've got no energy, and that's when they became flesh. And then in that book it mentions that God gave them, he would send them some food or a fruit off of a tree, like watermelon, whatever, and then they ate that, but they didn't have the digestive system to handle the fruit, and then they got sick from eating. Then God had to give them a digestive system, organs and stuff. He had to give them flesh and stuff like that to process the fruits that they're now eating, because it's not the same fruits as in the Garden of Eden. So these food, they have to be able, it's the earthly fruit, they have to be able to process it. And that was also interesting to me. And that's how he created us. That's how we became flesh. And now we are flesh. We are the solid form. We are energy because we are still spirit. And that's the problem. We are now so carnal and not spiritual. Like Paul said, we must be more spiritual and not so much carnal. We are flesh, but we are still spirit. And that's why the flesh makes us weak. The flesh makes us weak. It makes us feel hungry, it makes us feel thirsty, it makes us feel tired, it makes us feel pain and hurt, which we would have never experienced in the Garden of Eden, never. um so the story of that for me is how it all connects. If you know the Bible, you know your books and everything, and then how Jesus became flesh for us and went through the horrible death that he had to for our sins, because God said the life of a being is in its blood. And that is how the Israelites, that's how they always had to pray for their food, and they had to sacrifice animals. In the Garden of Eden, that never would have happened, but because of sin, they had to sacrifice animals so that the blood is the sweet aroma to God. It's the life of the being. That is the sweet, the smell and the incense and the sweet aroma for God. And that is why he gave his son, made his son become flesh for us, so that he could die in the flesh. And that blood is what is the sweet aroma to God. And every time he looks at us and our sinful nature and all of the bad stuff we do, he just sees Jesus paying that terrible, terrible, big price for us. So there's the one connection. I'm already off of what I've actually wanted to say in this video clip. So but that book explains so much of it. So they became flesh. That story gives so much background to what we've only got a chapter or two. and it explains in detail how Cain killed Abel, and how he then had to drop off of the place where they stayed in the cave, and where they sort of built their thing, and then how he went down and he started. That's how the Canaanites started, and I think like we are more like that. The Jews are then more of Adam and his son Seth, and that, and so yes, the book of Enoch, coming back to that, it explains a lot of the energy stuff, how he ascended with the angels, how they showed him the different heaven, the first heaven, the second heaven, the third heaven, and what he saw in each level. And then he said like God, the 10th heaven is where God's throne is, or God's feet is, if I remember correctly. It's so much information and stuff, but it also tells the story of the fallen angels and the Nephilim and what we are seeing now and going through and stuff. But that was the first thing I wanted to just mention, is just how we were created and what we are actually made of. We are energy. We are just compact. Our atoms are compacted into the solid flesh form, which is uncomfortable. It's a gas, like gas is more free. The atoms are free to move, and it's more open, and light energy is more open, magnetic energy is more open, but our solid flesh form is compact, and that's why we are so carnal sometimes, and we should be more spiritual. We should ascend to that pineal gland thing, where we sort of vibrate at that level. I'll also share my story of in these last few months, God isolating me, trying to get me back. I'm still not there. I'm still running away from God. But looking at what's going on and what my message is and what I feel I need to tell people, it's all over the place. I'm jumping around because I jump from this and then I go there and then I go there. But I've had a revelation where Jesus visited me, and it was not in a dream. It wasn't a vision. It wasn't a dream. I felt his presence, and how strong that energy was, like that overwhelming, and it's that in awe fear, not I'm scared of him, like, because I wanted to touch him, but I was like, every time he spoke to me, I could feel that energy, and I started levitating. I started lifting up. I was lying on the bed and I started lifting up, and I could feel my hand, because I didn't look to where he was sitting, because I was sort of too, not scared, but I was like in awe, like that overwhelming feeling of the power that I felt. And that is the energy. I could feel the aura, the surrounding energy, and it was like a magnetic field. It pulled me towards him, like my hand was hanging down the bed, and without me, I was so relaxed. I was just lying flat, doing nothing. And at one stage, I thought, like, let me just open my eyes. Let me open my eyes and just see what's happening. And my arm was outstretched, and I could feel the pull on my arm. I could feel that energy pull. It was such an amazing feeling. I'll share that story in a different video clip. I think I jumped around quite a bit in this one, but I just want to log it. I don't know where I'm going to post it. I don't have a podcast. I don't have a channel. I've got nothing. I'll maybe share it to other people that can post it. And then, yes, it's just not structured, but I thought I'm just going to say what I want to say and then log that in. And then the next clip, I'll say what I want to say and try to put it all together, but it's not structured. This is how it is in my brain. I don't feel like I've got the time to go and structure it in a sense of understanding. But I want to get to the book of Revelation also, and where we are at now. In my opinion, I've always I've always seen with spiritual eyes. That's what I also wanted to mention about the energy. Like, I studied BSc, I studied science. My degree is a science degree, and we did energy, but I always only saw it. I'd never understood energy. Energy was very complicated for me to understand. We did chemistry, we did physics, we did vectors, we did angles, geometry, all that stuff, and movement and lever arms and stuff. But we covered energy, but I never quite understood the science of it. I was like, oh, this is hard. I don't understand it. But it's because I looked at it through scientific eyes. And only later, looking at it spiritually, it makes so much sense to me now. It makes so much sense to me now. How energy is transferred from one form to another form, and how we are energy. we are made up from head to toe energy, and that's the spiritual part of us. And if you vibrate at a higher frequency, if we are compact in our solid form, our flesh form, more carnal, our frequency is low, we vibrate low. But the more we become spiritual and more brain and thinking and what's happening in our inner selves, then we vibrate higher. That's when when you start seeing through spiritual eyes. But if you block that, you not understand it. Then you see through your physical carnal eyes. And so, yeah, that's to open up the conversation, and then I'll build on this, hopefully, if I can get my mind sorted. So hopefully I can get this out to someone somewhere, or post it on I don't have a YouTube. I think I've got a YouTube channel. I'll maybe post it there and see how we go. But this is not a podcast. This is just me logging what's in my brain before I forget and not have any structure at all. Cheers, guys. I'll talk to you soon.